9. Today we are continuing with Chapter 9, the Mughal Empire. Today's topic is Akbar the Great 1556 to 1605, the Mughal administration. We will discuss the following points. So the objectives of today's topic are Akbar the Great, the central and provincial administration, the Mansabdari system, the land revenue system. Now we will discuss the following key terms. Number 1, conqueror, a person who conquers a place or people. Number 2, subas, it means provinces. Number 3, jizya tax. It was a tax that early Islamic rulers demanded from non-Muslims. Number 4, pilgrim tax. It was a tax imposed on Hindus by the Muslim emperors for undertaking a journey to a religious place.
Number 5, Mansabdari system.
Ranking of the government official and determined their civil and military duties. Number 6, Muqaddam, the village headman. Number 7, Parganas. It means a former administration unit of the Indian subcontinent. Number 8, Subedar. It means governor. Number 9, agrarian reforms. It means redistribution of lands.
Number 10, Polaj.
It means land that was always cultivated. Number 11, Paroti. It means land left fallow for a year or two so as to restore its fertility.
Number 12, Chachar.
It means land left uncultivated for 3 to 4 years. Number 13, Banjar. It means land left fallow for 5 or more years. Number 14, Bigha. It is a unit of measurement of area of land. Akbar the Great. India at the beginning of the 16th century AD was parcelled out among several independent and varying kingdoms. The Lodi dynasty was losing its grip and varying states were fighting among themselves to grab each other's territory. The first battle of Panipat 1526 AD sealed the fate of the Lodi dynasty once for all. The Battle of Panipat placed the empire of Delhi in Babur's hands. After Babur's death, his eldest son, Humayun, succeeded him to the throne at Agra. Humayun was succeeded by his son Akbar. Chronological order of Mughals. Number 1, Babur, from AD 1526 to 1530. Number 2, Humayun, from AD 1530 to 1540. Then AD 1555 to 1556. Then Akbar AD 1556 to 1605. Then Jahangir 1606 to 1627. Then Shah Jahan AD 1628 to 1658. Then Aurangzeb from AD 1658 to 1707. Now come to the reading part. Page number 191. Akbar the Great 1556 to 1605. Akbar is considered as one of the greatest rulers. He ruled for about 50 years and laid the foundation of a vast empire. He was not only a conqueror but a patron of art and literature. His court was famous for the 9 gems, with each person excelling in different fields. He showed great wisdom in following the policy of religious tolerance and giving equal importance to all faiths. He ascended to the throne at the tender age of 13 and for some years the kingdom was run by his guardian Bairam Khan. Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar AD 1556 to 1605 was the greatest ruler of the Mughal dynasty and one of the greatest rulers of India. He was only 13 years old when he ascended the throne and was guided by his tutor Bairam Khan. He ruled for about 50 years. He had 9 gems in his court who were famous in their own fields. Though he was Muslim but had love for all religions. Akbar took the reins of his government in his hand as soon as he came of age. He followed the policy of conquest and expanded his empire. His empire extended from Afghanistan in the west to the Bay of Bengal in the east. It also extended from the Himalayas in the north to the Vindhyas in the south. It consisted of 15 subas, provinces. Akbar took all the administration in his own hand. He was an imperialist who wanted to build a large empire. His empire now comprised the whole northern India from Afghan regions in the north west to Assam in the east and from Kashmir in the Himalayas to the boundaries of Bijapur and Golconda in the south. There were 15 subas, means provinces, in the Mughal Empire at the time of Akbar's death. Akbar was wise enough to know that to rule successfully, he had to win the loyalty of the Rajputs. He extended his hand in friendship to them, married Rajput princesses, and appointed Rajputs to high position. Even when he conquered the Rajput kingdoms, he treated the rulers with kindness and religious tolerance. Akbar knew that he had to win the loyalty of the Rajputs if he wanted to rule successfully. He made friendly and matrimonial alliances with Rajput. The Rajput policy of Akbar proved to be one of his greatest achievements. He entered into marriage alliances with the Rajputs. Bharamal, the ruler of Amber, married his younger daughter Harka Bhai to Akbar. He also appointed them to high positions. He treated the Rajput rulers with kindness and tolerance even when he conquered their territories. He followed the religious policy of tolerance. He gave freedom to his people to follow their own faith and practice their religions. He abolished the jizya tax and pilgrim tax imposed on the Hindus. Akbar abolished the jizya tax which the non-Muslims were required to pay. He also abolished the pilgrim tax on bathing at holy places such as Prayag and Benares. He gave a strong and just administration to his people and improved the revenue system. His Mansabdari system or military administration was very efficient. To strengthen the liberal principles, Akbar enrolled a number of Hindus into the nobility. The chief feature introduced by Akbar in his army administration was the Mansabdari system. We will discuss the Mansabdari system later on. Music, art, architecture and literature flourished under his rule. Under his rule, art, music, architecture, literature were flourished. The Mughal administration. The credit of laying a sound foundation of the Mughal administration goes to Akbar. Akbar had followed and improved upon most of the policies of Sher Shah. Generally, the Mughal administration was based on both the Indian and Persian systems. The two main pillars of the Mughal administration were the absolute authority of the emperor and the strength of the army. The administration was assisted by a number of officials directly appointed by the emperor. The Mughal emperors established a centralized state based on military power. It rested on two pillars, the absolute authority of the emperor and the strength of the army. However, the Mughal rulers made a conscious attempt to accommodate the different traditions prevalent in the country. The central and provincial administration. The administration of Akbar was divided into two parts, central and provincial. The whole empire was divided into 15 subas, provinces. Each province was under the charge of a subedar, governor, who had full civil and military powers. The post was transferable. The diwan was in charge of collection of land revenue. A suba was further subdivided into sarkars, each sarkar into parganas, and each pargana had a number of villages. Each pargana was under the charge of a faujdar who assisted the subedar in a number of ways. Abul Fazl in his book
Aine Akbari.
He says that the main duties of the faujdar were to crush the revolts, to catch thieves and dacoits, and to provide military help to the provincial officials. A village was under the charge of a muqaddam, a patwari, and a chowkidar. The administration in the provinces was on the lines of the central government. The central and provincial administration. The empire was divided into 15 provinces called subas. The subas were further divided into districts or sarkars and subdivided into pargana or group of villages. Each suba was headed by a governor or subedar. He performed both civil and military. Each pargana was under the charge of Faujdar.
In Aine Akbari,
The main duties of the Faujdar were to crush the revolts, to catch thieves, etc. The village was under the charge of Mukaddam, a Patwari, and a Chaukidar. The Mansabdari system. The Mughal administration was a military administration. For its successful functioning, Akbar introduced a new type of system known as the Mansabdari system. Each officer or noble was given a mansab rank and was called a mansabdar. The smallest mansabdar was in charge of 10 horses. The highest mansab was of 5,000. But the princes had higher number also. The mansab was held during the lifetime of an officer. It did not pass on to his descendants. The mansabdars were transferred from one area to another. They were paid a fixed salary. The mansabdars had to maintain an army according to the rank of their mansab. There were 33 grades of mansabdars. The grades varied from 10 to 10,000 during Akbar's reign. They were assigned land called Jagirs. Mansabdari system. The chief feature introduced by Akbar in his army administration was the Mansabdari system. The word Mansab means a place or rank. Thus, a Mansabdar was a person who held a particular rank. His rank determined his salary and his responsibilities. The main features of this system were every Mansabdar had two ranks, the Jat and
the Savar. The Jat
rank indicated the number of soldiers under a Mansabdar, while
the Savar
indicated the actual number of horsemen maintained by him. The Zat ranks ranged between 10 and 10,000. Generally, ranks above 5,000 were assigned to the princes. The Mansabdars were transferred from one area to another. They were assigned land called Jagirs. The land revenue system. Land revenue was the chief source of income of the state during the Mughal period 1526 to 1707. So the Mughals naturally paid great attention towards the agrarian reforms. The foundation of the agrarian system was laid down by Akbar and the system continued to be followed during the period of his successors. With the help of his revenue minister Raja Todarmal, who had already gained a good deal of experience under Sher Shah Suri, Akbar introduced many reforms in his revenue department. A uniform system of measurement was established for calculating the land tax. Todarmal drew up schemes for effective tax collection. This system enriched state treasury. The state also gave loans to poor farmers. This ushered in progress in agriculture, trade, and industry. The main features of this system were: first of all, the land was measured into bighas with the help of bamboo jaribs joined together with iron rings. Entire land of the empire was surveyed according to a uniform system of measurement. Land was measured with a bamboo jarib joined together with iron rings instead of the hemp rope used earlier. Number 2, all the cultivated land was classified into 4 divisions: Polaj, Parauti, Chachar and Banjar. The Polaj land was always cultivated and was never allowed to lie fallow. The Parauti land was allowed to lie fallow for a year or two to recover its strength. The Chachar land had to be left uncultivated for 3 or 4 years, and Banjar land had to be left fallow for 5 years or more. The total area of cultivable land was ascertained and divided into 4 categories: Polaj, the land that was always cultivated. Paroti, land left fallow for a year or two so as to restore its fertility. Chachar, land left uncultivated for 3 to 4 years. Banjar, land left fallow for 5 or more years. Number 3. The total produce of each bigha of the first 3 kinds of land was determined separately. The first 3 kinds of land was determined separately. Number 4. The share of the state was fixed at 1/3 of the total produce. The king's share was 1/3 of the average produce. The cultivators were allowed to pay their land revenue in cash or kind, but Akbar preferred cash payments. In order to fix the price of each article, an average of last 10 years' prices was taken. It was collected both in cash and kind. The average produce and the average price of the past 10 years was calculated and the revenue was fixed on the basis of this average. Number 6. For bringing the Banjar land under cultivation, loans were advanced to the cultivators so that they might employ extra labor. Farmers were given loans on every installment to buy seeds, implements and cattle. In case of famine, drought or other unexpected calamities means disaster, remission, cancellation was granted and even loans were advanced for purchase of seeds and animals. In case of calamities, the state granted remission of revenue. 8. The revenue collectors were asked to be friendly towards the cultivators and not to oppress them. In the beginning, the revenue settlement was made annually, but later on, because of its successful working, it was made decennial. The revenue collectors were asked not to oppress the cultivators and be friendly towards them. The revenue settlement was made every year, but later it was made after 10 years. As a result of these measures, the revenue of the state greatly increased. The cultivators became better off and the country became prosperous. The abundance of food also made the life of the common man better and happier than before. In short, writes Dr. V.A. Smith, the system was an admirable one. The principles were sound and the practical instructions to officials were all that could be desired. The revenue system of Todarmal was also followed by Akbar's successors, and many of its characteristics were later on adopted by even the English. As a result, the revenue of state increased and the country became prosperous. It made the life of people better. Dr. V.A. Smith, this revenue system was admired by everyone and it was also followed by Akbar's successor and later on by the English. So students, in this video we have discussed till here. Learn the basics terms, read the chapter thoroughly and follow the SNAP homework. Thank you.